this is Wes from Sedona North and Redcliffe Kinesiology, and I'm going to go through with you guys today a concept of your own personal timeline. So I'm going to use this model as an example. So assume this is you, and your timeline, it's going to extend forward and backward. Now, when it extends to the back, that's when we're looking at things in the past. So again, when we're looking at things in the past, these are things such as our memories. When we look at things in the future, by comparison, these are essentially assumptions or predictions that we're making of what our future is going to look like. So that can include goals and dreams and all of that. So you're standing here on the timeline, but right now, the actual moment that we're here in, that present moment and what we're experiencing, that present moment is the now. And so just a second ago, I started this video, that's the past. So right now as I'm talking, I'm in the now. Now when we get really productive and we're doing something where we're just fully functioning, that's when we can move into flow state, and that is actually true reality because we're acting, we're talking, we're communicating, but right now we're in that present moment and we're in the now. However, it is physically impossible for all of us to always obtain that now state all the time. So our mind's constantly going to drift back to our memories, things of the past. So we might think of good memories, we might think of bad memories, we might think of good experiences, we might think of bad experiences, positive, negative. All of this is virtual reality because in our brain, what our brain does is our brain whites out things. It does distortions, deletions, it makes generalizations. So again, our memories are very subjective, okay? So they might not be the actual reality, they are in terms of virtual reality. Now, same thing when we look to the future. We're making predictions, we're making assumptions, we're making our best effort and guesses. Now, depending on how we're going to see our future, we might see an experience coming up. You know, maybe we're going to meet a certain specific person. We might be experiencing anxiety about meeting that person. Or we might be experiencing more something towards excitement. Now, often, if we've had past interactions with that person, those are going to tie into our future interactions. So every time we met person X, if we had bad experiences, let's say we had 3 or 4 bad experiences, and now we're rolling that over in our mind, all of those bad experiences, it's more likely that we're going to start to, and we have to have a meeting with person X in the next week, it's more likely that we're going to start to feel things of anxiety about that meeting. But the reality is, that meeting hasn't happened. And the reality is that these memories that we choose to focus on from our past are our choices and our decisions. The thing that happens though is we become habitual, we become lazy. But what we can do is, like the Wizard of Oz, we can pull back that curtain and we can discover who is really in charge. And we can start taking control of what those past memories and experiences mean to us. So you may have experienced a past trauma in your life. Now, if you've replayed that past trauma several hundred times, you've now put yourself through that hell several hundred times. That is, when you look at that, virtual reality. That is not actual reality. Actual reality was the present moment when you actually experienced that trauma. Virtual reality is you replaying it over and over again. Now, if you keep replaying that trauma, those bad experiences, those negative experiences over and over again, and now you start looking to the future, you're more likely going to have anxiety. Same with things when we make generalizations. All men are this, all women are this, or we make stereotypes of a person of a certain background, culture, belief system, that. So our brain is very efficient. It makes these distortions, generalizations, because we can't take all that input in, but we have to recognize what we're actually doing in our brain and in our minds. So I'm just going to run through a couple quick techniques that you can do with the memories that you're experiencing right now. So you can close your eyes if you want for this process, you can keep them open. So often when we have memories, we'll be hearing sounds. We'll be hearing what the sound was like, what that conversation was. So we might hear sounds, we might be seeing pictures, we might be seeing movies. One thing that you can do with negative memories is you can pull them out in front of you. You can put a border around and you can shrink down the size. So you can make that smaller. So you can pull yourself out of the picture and assume that you're watching it as though it's in third person. Other things you can do is you can pull the color out. You can imagine that memory in black and white. And even using NLP techniques, you can actually rewind those memories, have them go backwards, faster and faster, loop them, add in circus music, things like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to change the meaning of those memories that you're having in your head. Same thing with our good memories. Our good memories, what we can do is we can blow those up. We can make those panoramic. We can sit down, close our eyes. We can experience it. We can turn up the volume. We can turn up the color, the contrast, the sounds. Okay, so we can really get right into that emotion, feel what we felt, hear what we heard, and see what we saw. Okay, and now if we start looping more of those good memories, they don't even have to be relational to what we're looking at in the future. So pay attention to this and what you're doing in your life. Take some time to go back in your timeline and shrink down some of those bad memories. Make them small, maybe white them out, black them out, put them off into space about the size of a pin. Change the volume. One thing I like to do is if you have one of those voices in your head that's kind of like nagging you, maybe change how that voice sounds. Make it sound like Mickey Mouse, or maybe, you know, a sensual person. You know, that's going to change the effect that it's going to have on you. Like, you know, if you're negatively self-talking about yourself and now all of a sudden you imagine Mickey Mouse saying those same words of negativity, it's going to take a lot of that power out. So just recognize that you are in control using this, your brain, and whether you're going to experience anxiety, virtual reality, or excitement, which is also virtual reality, is your choice. Myself personally, I'd rather have more excitement, looking more optimistically at the future, and so I want to pay more attention to those good moments, those positive experiences, those wins, and replay those in your life, and you're going to set yourself up for better success. Thanks for watching.
And Alexander from Sedona North Healing Arts. Today we're here to talk to you about making your own homemade baby food. So there are so many benefits to making your own homemade baby food. It costs pennies to make, it takes very little time, and the babies learn to eat what foods the rest of the family is eating, and it becomes a lot easier to transition them into family meals when you have been using your own food that you're making at home. So at around 6 months, most babies are ready to start solids. So I have a variety of foods out here. We want to always start with the iron-rich foods because babies run low on their iron stores. Full-term babies run low on their iron stores at around 6 months. So we want to be introducing those iron-rich foods. So some options you can look at are your infant cereals. Again, I'm not endorsing any brands here. These are just some that we had on hand. You want to start with a single grain cereal, and then you can move to your mixed grains. So I have things like oats and rice and wheat cereals. You also want to look at things like meat, fish, chicken, beans, lentils, peanut butter, tofu, eggs. They can all be introduced at around 6 months. So I have a little piece of chicken here that we cooked up last night. And again, I just cooked Alexander's chicken separately because you don't want to be adding any salt or sugars to the foods before you're making your own baby food. We've got some canned chickpeas here. Again, you're going to want to rinse those if you're using canned beans or lentils and get the sodium off. So I'm just going to show you a few different ways of modifying the texture of the food. So you don't want to start with a very lumpy type of baby cereal. You want to start with something quite liquid and smooth and then progress textures as the baby tolerates. So you can use utensils that most of us have around our home. So here I have a potato masher, I have a fork, I have a little mini strainer, just a measuring cup with some water, because you're gonna wanna add water as you're making the baby food. With the sweet potato and carrots and peas, you might just wanna add back the boiling water that you use to cook the vegetables in, because you can still retain all those vitamins. You can also look at using something like a bullet or just a blender that you have at home that works really good for pureeing your baby food as well. So I'm just gonna quickly just show you how to do a piece of chicken. So I just have a very plain piece of chicken in here, and I'm just putting it into the blender cup, and I'm just gonna pour in a little bit of water. And then I'm gonna put this on, tighten this lid up, and we're gonna stick it on here, and I'm just gonna show a couple of different textures that we might want to. So here I've got a chicken that's a little bit more lumpy and stringy. So a baby that's first learning to eat, they may not tolerate that very well. So I'm gonna add a little bit more water to that, and then put the lid on and make it a little bit more thin. There we go. That looks like something more that we could start with. So I'm gonna just show a little piece of that and just show the thin consistency of that. So again, when we're starting to introduce solids, really 1 or 2 teaspoons, maybe all the baby will take right away. I've got some sweet potato here. So this is just baked or microwaved sweet potato. And again, you can just take a fork and you can mash it up this way, or again, putting it into a blender, using a potato masher and some extra water and just getting it to that pureed consistency. The only food that we don't want to be introducing to babies before a year is honey or anything made with honey. But really, once you've introduced the iron-rich foods, there's no real order of introduction. You know, we recommend the vegetables and fruits because the vitamin C will help the babies absorb the iron in the iron-rich foods better. So as you can see, we've got some pineapple, we've got some frozen peas here, we've got some mango, we've got some banana, so a little bit riper banana, just cutting it up and mashing it up with a fork. We've got some ripe avocado that works really well. And then once you've got your baby food prepared, you can either use ice cube trays, or I just got these actually at a garage sale. I just got these little containers, and so I made up some carrots and some chicken and some sweet potatoes, and then I just freeze them in them and label them as to what they are. The only thing is you don't want to make up a whole bunch at once because the baby is going to progress to the textures. So you want to be moving those textures along. So that is how you make your own baby food at home. So for more nutrition information, you can go on to Alberta Health Services, Healthy Living, and you could also go on to Dietitians of Canada. They have some great credible nutrition information as well. Thanks and have a great day.